So we all know people can't afford to do shit anymore, but I want to talk about a little period of time where some shit was very, very cheap and it was kind of awesome, but mostly for millennials. Hey everyone, I'm Cam from FY Pod at Bulwark. I'm joined today by our hating tech companies expert, Mr. Chris Carden. Chris, we talk about the Millennial Lifestyle Subsidy sometimes, but I feel like a lot of people don't really know what that is. If you were explaining the Millennial Lifestyle Subsidy to somebody who's fucking stupid, how would you put it?
So in short, it was kind of the privilege to operate at a loss. Step one was they were kind of acquiring customers, racing to market dominance using something called blitz-scaling.
And who's doing this? This is Uber, like Uber Eats, DoorDash, like what else?
Yep, Netflix is part of it. Amazon is guilty to an extent. Pretty much any company, any tech company that like really rose to prominence in the 2010s.
So they were operating at a loss. They were doing shit really cheap. It was like if you're a pizza place and it costs from making the pizza to delivering it, it costs $20. If you charge $25, you're going to make $5. But if you charge $10, you're going to get a lot more people ordering pizzas. And that's sort of what we've seen here is Uber got everybody addicted to and like used to knowing that you can just call a car to pick you up wherever you are. And DoorDash made it so easy and so simple that people kind of changed their lifestyle to be built around. I can call an Uber. I can order DoorDash. I can cut the cord. I don't need cable. I can just, subscribe to Netflix. It's $5.99 a month. But then as time went on, a bunch of things changed from what I understand. And now we're sort of realizing how much this shit actually costs and that we kind of got bamboozled a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned the Uber. It's like when I remember starting college and Florida State had something called the Knoll Nightcap. And with your student ID, it was subsidized by the university. You could take a taxi for $5 to get home from the bar. It was $5 per person, though. So everybody in the car had to cough up $5. But an Uber was $6 total. You split that up. And I mean, 4 people going home for $20 versus what, $1.50 each before tip. I remember, I don't have many memories from those nights, but I do remember I stumbled shoulder first into those cars wondering how the hell they could afford to do this.
Uber used to be so cheap. Like DoorDash used to just basically be the price of the food plus like an extra $2. But there's financial reasons for this, right? I read something in the article you sent me about this that was like these startups weren't nonprofits. They weren't charities or state-run socialist enterprises. Eventually, they had to do a capitalism and turn a profit. But for years, it made a strange kind of sense for them to not be profitable. With interest rates near zero, many investors were eager to put their money into long shot bets. And if they could get in on the ground floor of the next Amazon, it would be a 1 in a million bet that covered every other loss. So they encouraged startup founders to expand, even if that meant losing a ton of money on new consumers so they could grow their user base. So they got us addicted to their shit by making everything very, very cheap. And then they jacked up the prices. And now certain people have like kind of built their lifestyle around having these options available. Like Uber and DoorDash and Netflix, they were operating so cheap just long enough that it became part of daily life. Like, you don't say calling a car anymore. You say calling an Uber. Uber has become synonymous with car service that you order to get somewhere. And I'm part of this problem too. Like this is a fucking marketing exec's wet dream. I have a friend who's an influencer who and we're not going to name, but posted out of curiosity, posted like a multiple choice question on her Instagram story. Not multiple choice, like a poll. It was, how do you like to read? Hard copy, Kindle, or Audible? And I said to her, like, is this a sponsored post? Like, are you getting paid by Audible to say this? And she was like, no, but Audible for audiobooks. And I'm like, there's other platforms for audiobooks. Like, you're an influencer with millions of followers. Don't give them this advertising for free. But that's the shit that happens is like, certain brands end up becoming synonymous with the product. Like, I remember when I was 8 years old, it doesn't matter what type of brown colored soda I was being handed, it was Coke. But with markets falling and interest rates rising, Startups and money-losing tech companies are obviously changing the way they do business. Actually, in a recent letter to employees, Uber's CEO, Dara, who has a last name that starts with K, said the firm needs to, quote, make sure our unit economics work before we go big. It's as if Silicon Valley had made a secret pact to subsidize the lifestyles of urban millennials. And it's important that we talk about this because it's millennials who really got to enjoy this. We got some of the spoils of it. You're pretty cuspy anyway. I'm an older Gen Z. Like, we did get to enjoy a couple years of this shit. But in the article, there was something, it said, 3 years ago, if you woke up on a Casper mattress, worked out with a Peloton, Ubered to a WeWork, ordered on DoorDash for lunch, took a Lyft home, and ordered dinner through Postmates, only to realize that your partner had already started on a Blue Apron meal, your household had, in one day, interacted with 8 unprofitable companies that collectively lost about $15 billion in 1 year. So that's not good.
No, it's not. It's kind of like, if you ever watched The Office, do you remember Michael Scott Paper Company? Operating at a loss, just to hurt Dunder Mifflin. It was all about just getting customers, you know? If he was like 10 years later and in Silicon Valley, not Scranton, Pennsylvania, you know, he'd have been considered a business genius.
And there's a slightly positive side to this because there's kind of an obvious, at least what should be obvious answer to this, which is you can compete with these companies by offering these services at an affordable price. And we're going to get into that. But one thing I wanted to add while we're still in the doom section of this all is that the Millennial Lifestyle Subsidy ending and all of these prices getting jacked up for services people rely on the story isn't over. With inflation raging, the Federal Reserve will continue to raise interest rates several more times in the next 6 months and could tip the U.S. economy into what we call a recession, which, you know, Chris and I remember from when we were like 8 and 13 respectively. If that happens, oil prices will likely fall and rising unemployment could put even more Uber drivers back on the road. And at that point, rideshare prices would fall again. So there's a lot of very dystopian things going on around us right now. Like, I just got into DC last night and I was on the phone with you and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that the city is under military occupation. Like, I was just in Union Station and I saw a bunch of soldiers with fucking assault rifles and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that I am in like a military state right now. But one of the things that I think is very dystopian is the concept of Uber prices going down and it being cheaper to Uber because so many people are unemployed that more people are driving Uber. Like, that sounds like a fucking like late 2010s millennial nightmare. That sounds like, while we're talking about The Office, Ryan Howard, the millennial character played by BJ Novak, that sounds like his vision of the world come true. But you actually have some information that doesn't speak to the larger narrative here, but is promising in terms of some companies learning from the fact that making things more affordable might actually do good things for their business.
Yeah, some people are kind of doing it right, you know, in the wake of all this. When you're not competing against unprofitable companies, it kind of introduces an intersection at quality and value where companies can truly thrive. Even companies that people previously thought were kind of down and out, you know, Red Lobster is a great example, had previously filed for bankruptcy, but now they're making new changes, you know, and a lot of them aren't even super expensive changes. It's just kind of common sense management. You know, they're updating the music and they're offering what they call the red carpet hospitality and addressing this staffing issues. They've got the seafood boil bags, which are a huge hit. They're emphasizing some of their classics like the Cheddar Bay biscuits. And they're really operating at that intersection.
Well, I feel like it's just, if you're a restaurant right now, that if you're a big business where like you have resources to try and compete right now, especially while it's very hard to be a restaurant, the answer should be sell some shit really cheap so people come here, and that will attract people who will buy the more expensive shit. Like in the video we were talking about drinking, where you got obliterated in the comment section for saying people need to go get trashed, which, by the way, everybody, my podcast co-host Tim Miller would say the same thing as Chris, except more aggressively and probably with a drink in his hand. But when we were talking about that, we were like, that's part of what keeps a lot of restaurants alive is the people ordering drinks. And it's like, okay, well, if you want people to come in and buy more expensive stuff, you introduce a stepping stone where there's cheaper shit. And that'll condition people to understand that they can come here without spending all of the extra money they had this week and actually participate in your company growing. What was the other place that had this? It wasn't Arby's. It was
Chili's.
Chili's started introducing some cheap shit again, right?
Yeah, they've got that 3 for Me deal, which is about the same price as a meal at McDonald's these days. The triple dipper and the modern marketing they've been doing has really worked out too. You know, the cheese pull is such a big deal, you know, with those mozzarella sticks. And so they've really been focusing on that, which I think has helped them out.
It's so crazy because as the connoisseurs of 1 a.m. fast food that you and I are, it's like the concept of something at Chili's being as expensive. Like the whole point of McDonald's was that you go there to spend no money. You go there when you're broke. And now it's like, it's costing as much money as like really a lot of competitors where the McDonald's edge was that they were cheap. But I think that McDonald's has become so culturally embedded in the way that people in this country go about planning meals when they're out or when they're working or when they're out for the night, that they sort of realized that they could get away with making shit too expensive, selling fucking $7 hash browns and stuff. Is like they realized McDonald's has become so powerful a brand that they don't need to be the cheapest place to go anymore. And I think it must be working for them. Like, are you seeing places like McDonald's? Are you seeing any downticks in pricing, or is everything still going up?
Feels like everything's still going up. When I drive by the McDonald's on the way to work every day, I see it's always got a line. Chick-fil-A will spill out into the street sometimes.
Well, okay. Well, that's, you know, Chick-fil-A is a level above McDonald's. And I think that's for a variety of reasons. One of which being that like if you're selling chicken, so sorry to offend you, Chris, and to offend the Southern person in you, but like some people want to eat grilled chicken. Not everybody wants to eat fried chicken. And if I'm sorry, like I fucking said it, I was at Shake Shack last night at Union Station, surrounded by the United States Army, and I got fried chicken because that was the option in front of me. But if they had grilled chicken, I would. Whatever. We're getting off topic, and this is going to be long enough for Dante to edit anyway. Everybody, this is the first of probably a longer series we're going to do on this. I have a lot left to say and no time to say it. So we're going to bookmark this and come back to it. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you.